Now, I just want to explain what I mean by purpose before we get going, which is your why. You know, it's what you were put on this earth to do. I want to give you the inspiration and some concrete tips to be able to find your purpose and start living it, basically. So we're going to cover the step-by-step formula for how to live a life of purpose and passion. And within that, I'm going to show you or talk about 3 deep-rooted mindsets that are keeping you stuck, and also how to overcome them, and 4 steps to create unstoppable confidence. So I want to tell you a bit about me. So I'm known for bringing talented women to the essence of who they are, so they can build their purpose despite fear and wake up to a life they love. And I've been coaching for 10 years now as a leadership coach and a transformational coach, and I'm an artist. And I'm going to share with you some pictures of my art, because it seems that people are interested. The creativity is quite a big part of what I do, whatever I'm doing. I've got a degree in psychology because I've been fascinated since I was 8 in how people change sustainably. I've got a degree in art. I'm going to just stop that for a second. And also in coaching. And I want to tell you how the formula came about, because it's really based on the story of my transformation, really, I suppose. So I started work in creative agencies, and it was a good job. It was interesting, it paid well, lots of lovely people. But as time went on, and especially sort of 15, 20 years in, I started getting this gnawing feeling of frustration, and that I wasn't doing really what I was born to do, that there was more here. This isn't me, really. This isn't me. And so I did an art degree, and but I couldn't sustain a mortgage and being a single parent on that. And then I got a career coach. And on the second session, I looked at what she was doing and I thought, I want to be doing what you're doing. So I feel I was quite lucky that I found really what is now, you know, what I'm born to do. And I did a postgraduate in coaching, actually. So I sort of, you know, I did it all, and I started my business. But I still had a lot of fear and self-doubt, and I wasn't taking the action I needed to make it count. You know, I did all that training and I was doing it, but I didn't know my value, and I didn't trust myself, and I couldn't really make it count. So I still felt a little bit at sea. And the transformation came for me when I stopped, when I stopped doing, and I went into more being. And doing that, I found who I was. I sensed who I was, and I invested in myself. I did loads of courses. I pulled up so many limiting beliefs and busted through them. And then my confidence started rising. I really started knowing my value, knowing my value, and my confidence really rose. And I knew my purpose. I looked at my innate gifts. I really looked at what I was here to do, and I found my purpose. And since I've been living that, I know what I'm born to do. You know, I get really emotional saying this, but this is what I'm here to do. And I know that 100%. But the great thing about this is that I feel now I can be 100% me. There's no mask, there's no pretense. It's just being able to be me. And the freedom in that is enormous. And that's what I want to give you a bit of in this session. If we can get to that place where you can just feel that it's there for you, and you know the steps to do it, that would be amazing. And having said that, I don't want you to think that I don't have fear now, that I don't have self-doubt, and I haven't got that inner critic going, nee, 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 you can't do this, you can't do that, because I do. I absolutely still have that going on. But what I'm able to do now is to create the space between those self-saboteurs, and me, and what I actually do. There's some space there. I don't know if you've heard of a guy called Viktor Frankl. He wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning, and he was a concentration camp survivor. And there's a wonderful quote from him, which is, between trigger and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our choice to respond. And in that choice lies our freedom. So basically, things happen to us. We have no choice about what happens to us, but we do have a choice about how we respond. And if you can create some space between that trigger and response, then you can create some freedom. So I'm going to be coming back to that and all, lots of these things in the session today. So that's where it came from. And with a couple of coaching colleagues, I feel that we've cracked the code, the formula of how you can get to that freedom, how you can find your purpose, live your purpose, and get to that freedom. This is the freedom formula that was born from this experience. So it's clarity. You have to have clarity, first of all, on who you are, on what you want, on where you're going. So that's the first step. The second step is courage. And this is about getting out of your own way and overcoming the things that are keeping you stuck, really. Confidence is about building your knowledge of your strengths and embedding, internalizing your value so that you know it. Commitment is commitment to action. So that is taking action despite fear. So I want to just give you an example of what this looks like in practice. This is a story of a client called Rachel. That's not her real name. She was working in one of the top 3 advertising agencies. She had a great job. But she felt that there was something wrong, that she wanted to do something more meaningful, but she felt really stuck because it was a brilliant job. We worked on her self-belief. We worked on her strengths. We really embedded her strengths. And we looked at what was keeping her stuck. And what it transpired was keeping her stuck was an event that happened to her 5 years before that had embedded a limiting belief there that was still driving her. But once we got rid of that, she absolutely flew. And she actually left that job and went to a smaller agency where she could do something that was much more meaningful to her. But the other thing is that it overflowed into her life. So she found the love of her life, married, and had a child. And that's the best thing, that once you get confidence in one area, it overflows to other areas. And I just want to tell you one more story of Natasha. Natasha, if you met her, you would think she's so powerful, she's so articulate, she's so confident, and she is all of those things. But she came to me because she was on the board of her company. She's at the top of her game. But she didn't feel that she had a voice there. She didn't feel actually that she could speak up. And she wanted to bring her authentic self. She was a bit tired of, she felt she'd lost her sense of self. She wanted to regain that. And she was a bit tired of not being able to be herself at work. So she wanted to bring that authenticity in, but felt really stuck with that. And we worked a lot on her beliefs, on her strengths. And this belief that I see a lot in women, that sort of work almost comes before you give everything to work, you work lots of hours, and it almost comes before your own well-being. So we worked on that, and we worked a lot with her presence, which is what I've really enjoyed working with her on, to really find who she is from that wise place, her sense of who she is. And she's now able to access that a lot, and is really into self-compassion. So I wanted to just share those with you as what it can look like. And I want to ask you to put in the chat, what do you think? What's the closest you've got to what your purpose is? So just take a minute or so, just have a think. What do you think your purpose could be? About that later, to leave the world a better place, to create, to make a positive change. This is wonderful. Create, nourish, and heal. So beautiful. You know, look, as women, to evolve and be a role model, absolutely. As women, what I find is that we want to do something meaningful. We want to have impact. We want to have impact. And I want to say that the time is now. You know, it's now to discover and live your purpose, because we've just spent a year where we've had actually a lot of challenge and a lot of reflection time. We're looking at what our values are, what's important to us. And it's lovely to see that in the chat, because it's to have more impact, to create things that are meaningful, to have connection with other people. It's not things really, it's our values. So are you ready to live that purpose, to give your life meaning? Are you ready? So I'm hoping that what we're going to do is going to really help you to be more ready. And I'm going to share this before we get into the main process. These are some signs that you are ready. Okay, so you feel frustrated because you know you have more to offer, and it's a pull, and sometimes it's quite painful. What you're doing now feels unaligned to your values. You feel you're wasting your talent. You're not taking action because of fear, which is the number one block. You feel stuck and you don't know what to do, and you feel time is running out. And what you want, is to thrive, not just survive. You want to love what you do, know you're good at it, and have impact, which is so clear from that list of purposes. You have a yearning for more peace and a life with more ease, and you want to feel more energy, creativity, confidence, and joy and empowerment. And you want to have a goal and a vision and achievable plans that you know where you're going. Okay, so here we go. We're going to go into these steps, and I'm going to show you and tell you exactly how you can do this. So the first step is clarity. And this is so important. This is clarity in knowing who you are and what you want. So many women have a gut feeling about what they want, but you can't put your finger on it. Now, the thing about purpose is that it is all about, it is who you are, and it's an expression of what your essence is, which is why it's so important to find it and to live it. So the more you know about yourself, the closer you are to your why, to your purpose. And to do this, you need to gather information. So you gather information about your values, about your strengths, about your purpose, which is all tied up in this, about your motivation, your drives, your needs. What do you need in your life? And from all of that, you can build your purpose and your vision. But the most important one, and the one that you start with, and I'm just going to stop the share now because I want to talk to you, is your innate gifts. So everything falls out of knowing what your superpower is. We all have something that we are brilliant at. And if you define that, that's the core of finding your purpose and your strengths, and having that golden thread that runs through your life that enables you to live a life of meaning and purpose. And you have to get granular with it. So I could say, and I do say, and I think this is true, that, you know, one of my superpowers is engaging with people, but that's not enough just to say that. You need to go further You need to know. So what my superpower actually is knowing what people are thinking but not saying. So sensing what is going on with them underneath. That's my superpower. So clarity is the first step. So knowing yourself, to start making intentional choices about your life and to live aligned to your values and your purpose, your meaning, what you are here for. Okay, so the second step is courage. And this is all about undoing, as I mentioned at the beginning. This is where you're going to overcome your barriers. And I love that this is something I say. Fear stops you, but courage drives you. So courage is, there are 4 parts of this. It's about overcoming your barriers. So managing self-sabotage. So that includes managing your fear, your inner critic, and the 4 P's of imposter syndrome, which are people pleasing, procrastination, paralysis, and perfectionism. Acceptance is, this comes from a saying that you might have heard saying, what we resist persists. So those stuck patterns, if we resist them, gives them more power. So actually what we want to do is to accept them, allow them to be there. I mean, I often say that fear and your inner critic is your friend because it gives you information, really valuable information about what you need to work on. So acceptance is hugely important, and presence is a part of that, which I'm going to talk about in the next one. And unlearning patterns. So you've got to, before you can unlearn patterns, you have to see the old story that you've been telling yourself. You have to see those patterns. You have to bring them up. What are the beliefs? What are the assumptions? What is the old story that I'm telling myself? And then once you know it and you're in the reality, then you can start overcoming it. So I'd like to ask you another question, and this is possibly a little bit more difficult than the one before. How do you self-sabotage? What's your self-sabotage of choice, you can put it? And what does it cost you? So just have a little think about that. What is your, how do you self-sabotage? And what does it cost you? Take a minute or so to just think about that and write something down. And then I'm going to ask you when you've done that, just to share it in the chat as well. So procrastinating, that's a very common one. Staying invisible, that's a huge one. Stuck, feeling I'm not good enough, absolutely. Self-doubt, paralysis, fill my mind with worry and thoughts. That is so common. So many of my clients have that. Losing opportunities, yeah. Impacts confidence, absolutely. Take on too much, that's a massive one. We get very busy. Playing it safe, yeah. Avoiding being seen, avoiding being invisible or avoiding visibility is such a huge one, and that's something that you have to come at bit by bit, trying to change the situation, believing I can, and everything tells me it's not possible. I need to move on. That's coming back to the reality, coming back to the actual reality, the facts, and seeing how the situation is. Playing small, procrastination, too busy. Busyness is a huge thing that we use to take ourselves away from actually what is really important to us. Not sticking to my guns and trusting my instincts, absolutely. Not taking credit for my own achievements. These are wonderful. Well, they're really interesting, and great that you've got some clarity about this as well. Not good enough, yeah. Stress, playing small, getting frustrated if things not going to plan, yeah. Brilliant. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that, everyone. That's really, really useful. I hope you find that useful to see what other people are going through as well. You know, one of the things about a group is that you can fit, you know, that you're not alone, that other people are going through these things too. Thank you very, very much. So we're going to take a closer look now at our biggest blocks. So I'm going to share this again, hopefully. Oops. So these are 3 key mindsets that can hold you back. So the first one is not believing in yourself. So it's that self-doubt, and I'm not good enough, and I can't do this, and it won't work, and I can't deliver. And one of my clients put this beautifully by saying, how can this, so she wanted to start up a new business and has had this with her for quite a while, but she said, how can this little girl from Wigan do that? How can this little girl from Wigan do that? And I know that I've felt that. How can this little girl do that? But the thing is that that little girl isn't doing it. You know, the capable, resourceful woman that you are now is doing it. And what happens is that sometimes our conditioning can get in the way. So we're born, I believe, this is my belief, that we are born pure. And as we are children, the conditioning that we pick up and the beliefs and the limiting assumptions and the story about who we are that we pick up in our childhood then can run and drive us as adults unless we look at it. So one of the key things here is to, and that's your inner critic, you know, that's what causes procrastination and lots of things that we saw on that list. It's the conditioning and the inner critic. And I just want to share with you a way of dealing with the inner critic, or the way that I deal with mine. And it is, again, creating some space between you and that voice. So if you can become aware of that voice, first of all, really sort of notice those little negative sort of jibes that are coming from it. And what I do is make it into a little creature. Some people say it sits on their shoulder, but I make mine into a little creature, and it's called Toto. And I don't know why, because Toto actually is a little dog, isn't it? But Toto. And I imagine it as a little sort of like a little child that's not getting its way, and it's always stamping its foot, and it's always sort of, you know, moaning about stuff, and it's always going, you can't do that, how do we, you know, I can. And the way that I visualize it, I can say, I hear you, I hear you, I think you have, you know, going off on one, I hear you, but actually I'm going to go and do this. So it can create some space. The second one, expecting to win 100% of the time. This is a killer, actually, because we can be very hard on ourselves. We can expect something to go our way just like that. And actually, that's not the reality. That isn't what happens. So what I do is I sort of think, okay, I'm going to expect to win about 20%, maybe, you know, 25% if I'm lucky. But that means that when things don't go my way, or I feel rejected, or you know, or something goes wrong, or I fail, in inverted commas, that's okay, because I know that that's the reality. And you can learn so much from your mistakes. There's so much resilience to be gained when you have the skills and the learning in place to be able to position it. So the way to be less hard on yourself with this really is to experiment with what you do. Go out there with a playful attitude and be open to the outcome, because you don't have actually any control over the outcome. You have control about putting your best foot forward, but you don't have any control. This is part of a letting go, which is part of the courage step. And fear. I love fear. It's one of my favorite things. And we're going to dig a bit deeper here. I've got a process here to help you manage fear and uncomfortable sensations. So fear is the biggest thing that stops us. And the reason it does, I'm going to give you a little bit of neuroscience here. The reason it does is because we're hardwired to feel fear. What stops us is the discomfort. So we feel the pain, the discomfort in our bodies, and we don't want that. You want to avoid that. We want the good feelings. We want to feel joy and peace and freedom. We don't want the pain. We don't want the fear and the anger and the jealousy. But actually, that is being human. So if we can accept that and go through that, actually, I want to stop my share here. If we can accept that and go through that and even see what information it has for us, then we can move, we can take action and feel fear. I just want to show the very, very quick story. When I was doing my leadership business, the first time I coached a leadership team, I was terrified. In fact, I was terrified for all of those team coaching sessions, especially of the men in the room, if there were men in the room. I was terrified. And at the end of the contract, they sort of said, Sharon, it's really transformed the company. And that was amazing for me, because I just thought, I can feel terrified and still give value. And as a lesson, it was huge for me. So now I think I can feel fear, it's fine, and I can still give value. So I want to take you through an in the moment process for sitting with fear. So this is you can shut your eyes here, or you can keep your eyes open. I'm going to ask you at the end just to write some things down from it, but I'd like you just to go with it for me. So I want to invite you to relax in your seat. Okay, I'm going to take you through this complete, so you can just relax. And I want you to think of something you'd love to do, but you haven't taken action on. So just take just a moment to think of something you'd love to do, but you haven't taken action on. And now just think, what is the fear that stops you? What's the fear that stops you? And if you can get in touch with that fear, I'd just like you to embody it just for this moment. Just see if you can just get a feeling of that fear in your body. And I want to invite you to take 3 slow, calm breaths in and out, and to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. So calm, slow breaths here. And just become aware of the main sensation in your body, where this sensation of fear resides. Just notice where it is, and just see if you can feel the sensation of that fully. Just the sensation, with curiosity and without judgment, the sensation of that fear. Just feel it. And then, and you can do this with closed eyes or open, cup your hands together as if you were filling them with water. Put them in front of you and fill your hands with all the love that you give to others. All the love that you give to others. Just fill your hands with all that love and feel all that love that you give out. Fill your hands with that love. And then I want you to take that love and put your hands on the part of your body where you felt the sensation of fear and give that love to yourself. And hold your hands on that part, on that sensation. Really breathe in that love that you're giving to yourself. And then think of what you can appreciate about the situation where you felt fear. What can you be grateful for or appreciate about that moment or situation? And then I want you to think, what message would your wise future self have for you in this moment? So what message would your wise future self have for you in this moment? And now the last question is, what would you rather feel, think, or do? And I just invite you to take a minute or so to just write some of those things down so that you can remind yourself that next time you feel that fear, this is what you would rather feel, think, and do. Just take a minute to write it down. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. Just indicate how did that, oh, you can just put something in the chat with how you how that landed for you. So this is a story of Dolores. I'm calling her Dolores, and she wanted to write a book, and she had done for 12 years. She'd written done her PhD, and from that she had wanted to write this book for 12 years, but she hadn't done it. But we worked through her fears of what was going on for her and basically transformed those beliefs. So she was worried that it might not be well researched. What would people think of it? That it wouldn't be good enough. But actually, when we looked at her PhD was amazing. And she realized that actually the book would be too. So she's writing 2 books now. So we're going to look at confidence now. So confidence is the third step in the freedom formula. So once you know your purpose and you've cleared away the barriers that are going to stop you living it, then you have to have the confidence to put it out into the world. So confidence actually comes from the Latin word, two Latin words, con and fidere, which means con is with and fidere is trust. So it's actually about trust. Now, to build your confidence, you have to internalize your strengths. And this is embedding your strengths. You have to gain skills that you need to do what you want. So I realized very early on in my business that I didn't have the skills I needed. I felt a failure actually at the beginning, but it was just because I didn't have the skills. And that gave me so much confidence. You have to go from your comfort to your stretch zone. So there's a lovely model for confidence, which is that you've got your comfort zone and your stretch zone and then your panic zone. And what you really want to do is to go from your comfort zone and live in your stretch zone so that you feel you're stretching yourself, but it's attainable. And the way to do this is to take little actions. So confidence is a muscle. You build it by taking action. And be your own sovereign. This is about just being the ruler of your own life, really. You have to know what you want and internalize your own validation so that you know instead of getting approval and validation from outside, you get it from inside. You give yourself your own approval. You stop listening to what other people might say or worrying what other people might think, and you just listen to your own opinion. So it's about knowing your value. And the last step in the freedom formula is commitment. So this is what we did in that fear exercise. So it's having techniques for managing that discomfort so you can move whatever's going on for you, whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking. And building resilience. So building resilience is taking action. It's taking action and realizing that you can get something wrong, that you can fail, and the world doesn't fall apart. And actually, there's an immense amount of learning there. The more you do and the more mistakes you make, the more you can do and the stronger you'll feel. And experiment. So commitment to action is actually about taking action. And sometimes the act of of taking action can be quite difficult because we have a very set view of what we want out of this. But if you can experiment, it brings a whole new quality to the action that you take. So this is play. You experiment and then you evaluate and you see what worked and what didn't work. And what I say is being open to the outcome can completely change what happens actually. You don't have a very fixed outcome. You're open, and sometimes the things that happen to you or you can have a conversation that will lead to something. And even though you've got a vision, I always say have a fuzzy vision, because you don't know what the path to that fuzzy vision is. Have accountability support. So get a friend who you can be accountable with. Get support, build a group of people who are your champions, who are always there for you, and be very clear on your plan and your goals, and know that will also change. So what I say is take inspired action. When you are present, your action actually comes from your inspired self, not your mind. And underpinning all of this is self-compassion. So self-care is the foundation of all of these steps, because in order to grow, you are going to deal with change, and that brings with it fear very often. And if you have a strong foundation, that you are keeping yourself well, you're doing some exercise, you're keeping your mind well, you have a foundation of well-being, that is an amazing springboard. And in fact, if you are trying to sort of change something and do something new from a foundation that isn't steady, it's going to be much, much harder. So self-care is the foundation of all change, and being present, as I've said, that runs through the whole of the 4 steps. So we've gone through these steps, and just to sum that up, it's knowing yourself, your why, your vision, what you really want, and what your purpose is. Stopping self-sabotage, so overcoming the things that keep us stuck, trusting your inner sense, your own judgment, getting your validation from yourself, your approval from yourself, so you don't need that external approval, taking inspired action with ease, and having a concrete pathway, your vision, goals, and a plan. And just 2 more client stories. These are just really to show you that it's all possible. Women come very often and they're stuck, and it's just opening these steps, the clarity, courage, confidence, and commitment, just opening that up. It's possible for all of us, and I really want it for you. So I just want to tell you, so the Freedom Formula is a program that I'm running, and I want to tell you, if you would like to work with me, if you want to find out more, explore more about this, then I'm very happy to. There's going to be a link to book a call in a minute. And this, I just want to tell you what it is. So basically, the Freedom Formula program is 6 months or a year, twice monthly one-to-one coaching calls. So it's bespoke basically to exactly where clients are. There are group mentoring calls, so you've got the power of the group to support and share. That thing about not feeling alone is so important. There's an on-demand learning center of resources, which is fantastic. I can't tell you, it's taken a long time to put this together, but these are amazingly transformative tools and exercises that are in one place for you to access whenever you want, so clients can go at their own pace. It's astonishing. There are tickets to private intensive events, individual coach and spa days. Now, I don't know many coaches that do this, but I have included in this is a spa day. So you get very, very relaxed, and then coaching. And that's a perfect way to really start opening things up. Guidance on how to live in the present. So there's a program that goes alongside the Freedom Formula, which really helps you access your present. As I said, I think it's so important. There's a private support community, which is a Facebook group, which, your champions. So that's what it's like. And the program is for you if you are tired of wasting your talent and time. You want to see, this is important, tangible shifts quickly. So it will help you move really quickly. If you want to live your true purpose, if you want the courage to follow your passion, we all have that courage, and sometimes it just needs opening up. And if you can't do it by yourself, then I've had so much support for where I am now. You want to come to the truth of who you are, and I know most women do. You want to play bigger, you want to feel empowered, aligned, joyful, and free, and you're ready to commit to taking action. So I think Lucy's going to put a link in the chat that if you want to have a discovery call and explore whether that would be good for you, then brilliant. And I want you to go out and play. Now, I've rushed through the end of that quite a lot. I'm going to stop sharing because I want to see everybody and get everyone on the screen. If you've got a couple of minutes to stay, I'm really happy to answer any questions you've got, to listen to. That's the first time I've run this, so to listen to what your thoughts are on this and how you're feeling, really. So feel free to leave because it's 12 o'clock, but if you want to stay, I'm really happy to answer any questions you've got, and even to do a little bit of coaching. Or if you want to put a question in the chat, then I can get back to you after that. So thank you so much for being here.